Hey everybody, we would like to open up the show today by just offering our condolences to Jordan Denning's family, his friends and his teammates after his sad passing last week. We offer our thoughts and prayers to everybody who was affected by this. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 44 of the Auld Triangle. We are back to talk all the latest and greatest in Irish mixed martial arts news. And as always, we've got plenty to discuss. Andy Stevenson, Caoilte de Barra are here as always to help me go through all of the news that we have upcoming, some past, some present, some in the future. Thanks for joining us as always, lads. And thanks for everyone for listening in. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, tell a friend. We appreciate the support. We want to help them grow the podcast. Our guests today, a kind of a Cage Warriors London special. We have Sinéadh Ní Nualláin and Adam Darby, who are set to compete on the Cage Warriors London card this weekend. We're really looking forward to bringing you those interviews later on in the show. I'll just ask, how's the boys first before we get into it? Are you keeping well, Andy? Keeping well, Caoilte? We'll head over to Andy first.
Wonderful. Buzzing to chat. We've had a lot of MMA going on lately. A lot of Irish MMA as always. So we've got reigning champions, we've got amateur champions, we've got it all. So
love it.
Buzzing to get it unpacking it with you. It's
been a busy year, Caoilte. We're in November now. It's mad to think we're in November, lads. It's crazy, but it's been a busy year, and we're going to stay busy for the rest of the year until it's out as well, aren't we?
Time's absolutely flying. From the time we started this podcast to now, the amount of episodes we've gotten through and the amount that's going on every single week, we've got something new, some mad amount of news happening, all these fights. Irish MMA never sleeps at this point, and yeah, so much happening. We'll follow it all for the rest of the year and so on and so forth.
Absolutely. There was no sleeping being done last Friday, lads. Everyone was up watching Danni McCormack defend her title at Invicta FC. And doing it very well against Karolina Wojcik, her retaining the strawweight title in impressive fashion, in my opinion, and getting the finish in round 4 via rear naked choke, putting Wojcik to sleep in the process. And this sparks lots of conversation. Let's talk about the fight itself first, guys. Caoilte, I'll go to you first. Look, we touched on it before the fight. We had said this is an interesting fight because of Danni McCormack's history with Karolina, obviously having been defeated by Karolina in the amateur ranks. But obviously 2 of these women came into this fight head and shoulders with a skill level above what they had previously. But it was Danni McCormack really that shone through, and it was an excellent performance overall from her, Caoilte.
Yeah, it was. It was a champion's performance. I feel the way she defended that belt, the way she performed throughout the entire fight, it was probably her best performance today, to be honest with you. Striking, grappling, everything looked smooth. Yeah, it was absolutely brilliant and a great way to defend the title. And yeah, wow, from the striking, she had that lovely little teep to the face at one point, and that stood out to me so much. I was like, that is a real Muay Thai teep to the face, and I love it. But all the way through that fight, striking looked crisp. Maybe in third round, Karolina started picking up, but no messing about in round 4. Then for Danni, she was straight in on that body lock, took the back, took her down. Bit of ground and pound, then managed to get the choke in. And she had her way for most of the fight, to be honest with you. Absolutely brilliant.
Absolutely, very well said, Caoilte. Like, as the rounds were progressing, Andy, rounds 1 for me, Danni McCormack's round 2 for me, Danni McCormack trying to close the distance. I'd spoke to Danni before the fight, and she was wary of wanting to not get into a big exchange and not get hurt early, and I thought she did excellently to do that. We spoke about the use of single shots, the use of slowly and carefully closing the distance, and kind of just maybe grinding on Karolina, showing the strength in the clinch and in the grappling. A couple of failed takedowns before the end takedown came in round 4, but for me, I had it rounds 1, rounds 2 for Danni. I thought Karolina, as she needed to do, Andy, in round 3, came back strong. After losing those first 2 rounds, I thought Danni, probably dropped that round. But like Caoilte said, it was like a switch flipped in round 4 for Danni, and she was like, all right, I'm getting this one out of here right now. Got the takedown, moved to the back, secured the choke, and it was over in seconds. And I'm sure you were just as impressed as the both of us.
Yeah, 100%. Like, when I was watching it, I haven't gone back and watched it back, but I thought that Danni had won all 3 rounds heading into it. Now I wouldn't get into an argument over who won the third or anything like that. And as I said, I haven't watched it back, but I thought that Danni was the one Look, Danni needed this finish, because when we were talking about this fight coming in, Danni wants to be in the UFC, and one of the things that's kind of been communicated across to her is that she needs to finish. So when I was watching the first couple of rounds, to me it seemed like Wojcik wasn't really trying to offer a whole lot. I thought that Danni was the one kind of pushing the action, trying to make it more of a fight, I guess, to put it bluntly. And I thought that Danni was winning. And even though, Wojcik had success in the third, I never really felt that Danni was in danger. Like, okay, yeah, maybe she lost the round, but it was, there wasn't a whole lot to it. So I thought, I was impressed. I thought it was a bullying finish from Danni, the way she flattened her out and had some crushing blows, and then just really kind of just grabbed her by the throat, lifted her neck up, and sunk in the choke in the end. So it was an important performance, and look, she got the win. She called for her shot in the UFC with Mick Maynard, and look, I hope she gets it. So yeah, I was impressed, and a much needed performance, much needed finish, and fair play to Danni.
Yeah, 100%, Andy. Like, now that I would say that she'd lost round 3, but I would agree with you in what you were saying there. It's like, I never felt that she was ever out of control of that fight. And I actually spoke with Danni after the fight. The interview should be out on the SevereMMA YouTube channel right now, where she kind of was just in between corners, where they were actually pushing her, saying that, okay, you've had your fun now. You need to go out and finish this woman. And Danny's like, yeah. And she's just like, I just fucking love being in long fights. I don't know what to say. She was having so much fun in there, and she was having such a good time. But it just goes to say what you're saying. It's like probably not what Mick Maynard wants to hear, But at the end of the day, the result is what's final, and the result was a finish, and an impressive finish to put somebody asleep as well. And the boxes are being ticked off here, lads, and it's got to be the UFC next for Danni. If, we're going off of the potential of a UFC show coming to Ireland maybe next year. I think Danni is very marketable. She's funny, and she's got that history as the Invicta champion now. Of course, she has the option as well, Caoilte, to kind of come in and defend that title once more at Invicta, and she's more than happy to do that as well. So I guess there are options out there. So, I mean, either avenue, there's opportunity to create history for Danni here. And, I'm sure you're probably the same as myself and Andy. It's probably you would want to see her competing in the UFC, and there's a couple of winnable fights for her in there as well.
Yeah, after the fight, I think my first reaction was I can't see anything but the UFC next. Like, it's getting the finish in such impressive fashion, probably her best performance today, as I mentioned. Like, it seems like it makes the most sense, especially with the kind of focus of bringing Irish fighters in at the moment, with the potential of having a show in Dublin. She's very marketable. She, as you said, she's very funny. Like, that post-fight interview, I felt inspired after it. I got such a good laugh out of it as well. It was like a roller coaster of emotions just listening to it. So, I just think it would make perfect sense. The UFC be stupid not to sign her up at this point, to be honest with you. But if she does decide to stay in Invicta, I could be wrong. Please correct me if so. But I think if she does defend again, she'd have the most title defenses of the strawweight division if she does defend again, which would be another bit of history she'd make if she does stay on. But yeah, lots of options, but hopefully UFC.
And you look at the bright lights of the UFC, Andy, and, they are very warm and you do want to compete there. But at the same end of the stick, I was looking at Danni and the way they created this event around her. They had it in Boston. You had the fancy dress and the Irishness and the bit of fun. And then you go out, you have the performance. It was a perfect accumulation of just a moment in history for Danni McCormack. And one, in fairness, probably she would not have been able to experience it to the same level if she was signed to the UFC. So I'm glad for her that she got that moment. That moment has passed, and now it's moving forward. But, it wasn't all like it. There is avenues to build your career at Invicta. It's not all doom and gloom if the UFC doesn't come a call in either, I would imagine as well. And I'm sure you feel the same as well.
Yeah, I mean, like, ultimately, it's look, it's not going to be Danni's call here. Like, if in the sense that if there's a new UFC opportunity, she's taking that with both hands. She's told us this before. She's 33 years old. She wants this now. I thought it was brilliant that the card was built around her, in the sense that she's the champion. Her last fight, she's going in and challenging for the title, whereas now, she's kind of the star of the show. What I'd love to see from Danni, because I think you're right in I think, like, her post-fight speeches are very inspiring. And she has done this before, where she's talked a little bit of shit, and I think Danni should just run with that now, because, like, if she's like, this is from the context of, if she's having trouble with the UFC, kind of giving her a shot, then fucking start talking shit, because you just be like, listen, I'm the one in here, I'm going in, I'm winning the fights, doing it kind of the hard way, and just talk a little bit of shit, because I feel like that'll it'll add a little bit of extra kind of oomph to her case. But I mean, I hope she gets her shot. I really, really do here, but there's also no harm. Like, I think there's a growing spotlight on her now that she is the champion. She's defended here, she's finished here. So if it was a case where the call didn't come and she has to defend again, which hopefully doesn't happen, I think I could see her going out there and putting on another performance like that and strengthening her case even further. But look, hopefully it's UFC next for Danni. And yeah, like I'd love to see her in there.
Yeah, like she's still improving, which is very impressive as well, and promising for us in seeing the growth to go out there at this stage of her career and still be putting on career best performances. Obviously, confidence of winning the title, accumulated with the confidence of defending the title, is going to build more and more success for Danni as well. And she's outspoken in saying that she wasn't even defending her title, she was more so showcasing why she is the champion. I like that from her. And she did have a couple of choice words for Michelle Waterson Gomez on the interview that I did as well. So yeah, it's definitely targeting.
You're gonna have to send us a sneak peek link to this. We're recording a few days earlier.
Yeah, indeed. So she's outspoken. Like you said, she needs to be outspoken. She needs to fight her case. We'll do the same. Connor is doing the same. It's great to see Connor giving her the spotlight as well. And big things are coming, hopefully, for Danni McCormack. But it's great to see, we wanted to open up the show today and talking about that, because this is an Irish fighter that is fighting and defending a world title. And you know what? We feel very blessed and lucky to have someone in that situation as well, which is, we've got to say that as well. Hey, guys.
Yeah, the one of the things that I forgot to say, I wanted to say, was that Invicta, like when we talk about cage wars all the time, and we've said this before on this show, the plan, the deal with cage wars is you go in there, you win your fights, you get to a title, and then that's supposed to be your avenue to the UFC. On the women's side, this is what Invicta has been built around as, the pathway for women to the UFC. So Danni's gone in there. She's won 3 on the bounce now. She's won the title. She's defended the title. She's done it with a finish. So, she's doing her part here. So that's the next step is, okay, maybe it's one more title defense. Hopefully not. But, that's the pathway is towards the UFC. So that's the crack there.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree anymore. Also on the card, Dee Begley, we've got to mention, was unlucky in losing a split decision to Katrina Williams. I think that's her name. What's her
Christina Williams.
Christina. So it was right the first time. I thought it was. So I thought Dee was relatively unlucky in what was a really close fight here, guys. I scored it a 29-28 to Dee Begley. With really, Andy, we were kind of talking about it a little bit beforehand. It's really down to the first round in this fight here and how you kind of see in that. I chose it, and I'm not going to argue with anyone who didn't. I thought the couple of overhand rights that Dee landed, accumulated with the front kick to the face that was landed in round 1 as well, was just about enough in what was a razor close round and a razor close fight, Andy, overall.
Sorry, was muted there. 100%. I thought it was very close. I thought I had it scored for Williams. I thought it really came down to the first. The second, Williams really was hurting Dee to the body with those body kicks, and I don't think anyone could really argue with that round. Dee did have success at times, but I thought that the body kicks were the most significant kind of moments in that round. And then in the third, Williams kind of had a late flurry, but apart from that, I thought that Dee was landing all the big shots of the round. So for me, it came down to the first. Can definitely see an argument for Dee. I haven't gone back and watched the event, but on the night, I felt that Williams won the first round, but a very, very close one that could have gone either way. So, it's obviously a loss, and it's probably disappointing for Dee in her debut with the promotion, but it's a fight where you'll probably learn a bit from, and you can take things away from it. And it was a close one, but I did have it for Williams on the night.
100%. Caoilte, how did you see the fight going on the night yourself? I know that you had watched it back. I got to mention, I'm going to put my hand on my chest here and be honest. Dee Begley's nickname, Despicable, has been on her Instagram for quite some time, but it's in like really weird writing. And I was kind of looking at Dee's profile and stuff for many weeks, and just thinking this was just like random. It's like, why does Dee Begley have like just random Chinese writing on her? Well, it's just despicable.
I know what you mean.
Do you know what I mean? I was like, I just when you read, I was like, that's weird, and I just thought nothing of it and kept going. But I did realize it before the fight, but her dressing up in the costume was fantastic before the fight. I just wanted to mention that as well. But back to the fight, Caoilte. How did you see it? Obviously, pretty similar to myself and Andy. What was your final score of it?
Yeah, I scored with Williams, to be honest. And when I watched it back, I did score with Williams again. But all down to that first round. Yeah, it was. And, it was a close first round. Williams did well to use that kicking game to kind of keep her at range and use that distance. You could see there was an evident height difference there as well. So Williams did well to keep range, and Dee Begley did very well. She got in the face at times, managed to get some shots, some good hooks in when she got on the inside. That front kick to the face was brilliant, and I think she got an overhand on top of that as well. But she sat in her shots a bit in that one. But I did give it to Williams that round. I thought round 2 for Williams, and then there was a good push in round 3 for Dee, but it wasn't enough on my scorecards anyway. And yeah, look, it was a very good fight though, and I do feel like that was it was a good kind of opening fight to have in Invicta, and a good way to put yourself out there with the promotion. Definitely going to get her another good fight there, and I could see her doing really well after that fight. Lots to learn from it,
100% valuable 15 minutes there. It was absolutely delight for us to be able to actually watch her fight from start to finish. As well over on Invicta. And if anyone hasn't seen any of those fights, they are available for free on Invicta FC YouTube channel. So definitely head out over there and check those fights on as we move on to some other recent action which took place over in the UK this weekend. And that was the Oktagon 48 finale, the Oktagon Challenge 48 finale, along with a lot of other fighters on the card as well. Dennis Frimpong was in action. Aaron McDonald was in action. Shamrock's supposed to be in action. We'll talk about that a little bit, that fight didn't go down. Let's talk about Dennis Frimpong first versus George Staines. Lads, Dennis was on the podcast. He was very outspoken as he is coming in here, but things didn't go his way. He lost via 4th round guillotine choke. The first thing I got to say about this fight though, Andy, I'll go to you first, was craziness that this fight was 5 rounds. I do not understand it at all. Talking about 2 guys opening up their professional career having to fight 5 rounds is just very baffling to me, but they did it anyway, and George did get the finish in round 4. Your thoughts on the fight itself, Andy?
Yeah, look, I mean, it was very, very dominant from George Staines, and I kind of got the sense from early on that it was going to go that way. Like, it just seemed that Frimpong didn't have an answer for him when it came to, resisting the takedowns, and Staines was very, very effective once he kind of got Dennis down and up against the cage and kind of using the leg triangle. He just completely had him pinned, and he was landing. I know, at times the corner or Dennis or whoever was kind of saying that, there needs to be more activity here and kind of calling for the ref to send it up. But I thought that Staines was active enough. Like, he was consistently landing shots. And yeah, like, there was moments in the fight, like, I thought where Dennis showed glimpses where maybe he'd be able to do something. I know he'd landed a couple of nice up kicks and was searching for a triangle at one point, but really Frimpong kind of dealt with those well, and it was it was dominant from Staines in the end, and it never really looked like the momentum was gonna shift from the first round, to be honest.
Yeah, I would agree with pretty much all of that sentiment as well, Andy. The writing was on the wall pretty early days here. Caoilte, Andy mentioned it as like when your back is against the wall, when you are being taken down, Dennis did try to throw up a couple of triangles and arm bars and stuff like that. And, they just simply weren't working. And at that stage, you've really got to start working hard to just try and get back up to your feet, really. And, easier for us to say it, I guess. But yeah, he was unsuccessful, and it was a really one-sided win from George Staines overall.
That's a classic George Staines type of fight. As soon as it went to the ground and the way it went on, it felt like I've seen that so many times before between IMMAFs and some of his amateur fights. It's very much classic George Staines. He's got this style and it works so well, and he implements it so well. And Dennis definitely believed that he could have found a way around it, but I think even he was surprised by how good Staines was in this fight. And the fact that, as soon as the first round happened and how it went, you could kind of see this is how Staines is going to approach this for the rest of the fight. It was unlucky, not unlucky. It was a tough one for Frimpong, but look, a lot of lessons to take. Hopefully, Oktagon keep him, because I imagine he carried that show in certain points. He was the villain of the entire show, so really sold it. And I imagine he gets another opportunity with them. I think he's very marketable for them as the villain in terms of selling fights. But
that's the thing, isn't it? It's like when you look at every story needs a little bit of a villain, lads. And there's villains, plenty of them in mixed martial arts. But you can go out there and you can shit talk, and it rubs people up the wrong way. And other people might be more used to it, or other people might not care. Whatever your decision is and how you feel about that is up to you. But with that comes the extra hardships after the fact if you don't go out and perform for Dennis. So that's something he's obviously aware of that. He spoke to us about that as well, and that's something he's going to have to deal with. You talk the level of shit and you don't perform, you are going to get it. But look, at the end of the day, the bad guy is needed in some cases, and I think Dennis added a lot to that Cage Warriors Challenge show itself, in making it exciting, making it entertaining, and that's what we are. We're trying to entertain here as well as everything else. So it's a tough one for Dennis. He'll be back, but George Staines, I'll go to you in a sec, Andy. Just to talk about George Staines, Caoilte, for a sec. You've seen quite a bit of him over at the IMMAF. He's a top level guy. He's gonna go and make some waves at Oktagon, I'm sure, as well.
Yeah, he was always huge at IMMAF for his weight division. I'm pretty sure he cut a bit of weight before every single fight. I'd say it wasn't a case of walking in on weight. But look, same type performance you'd imagine from every single time. I remember the moment he won the European Championships and his father was in the crowd, and there was a fantastic picture that Lee Hamilton Cooper took of him kind of celebrating, and when he won. But that was a great one, and he was fantastic at the Worlds as well. Didn't get his way, but probably wasn't his best performance in that fight. And that's been his only loss, and he didn't even look that bad in that either. So I do feel like he's got a massive ceiling, and he could do really well in Oktagon.
Yeah, that absolutely. Yeah, seems like a very nice fella as well. So fair play to him.
Love Star Wars and Lego.
Yeah, I love it. Andy, any final thoughts before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, like, just on Staines, it really is really the Irish MMA show here. But like, when you look at his fight with Matt Elliott, Matt Elliott's a guy who's competed at like Youth Commonwealth Games and stuff for Team Great Britain in both judo and wrestling. So when he's kind of getting the better for the most part of Matt in a fight like that, when Dennis was always kind of going to be up against it here in the grappling department. But what I guess my final thought would be, I saw a lot of people, or not a lot of people, but some people online kind of questioning, like, well, why are we even bothering with this guy Dennis? Like, if he's just going to talk trash, and he's they're saying, like, he's 0-2 because you can't count that win against Liam Del Sol, which fair point, but this, like, the way I kind of looked at this show to begin with was he got me interested. Like, Dennis Frimpong was the main person on this show that kind of got me interested to watch, because he created a bit of drama. And the way I saw this Oktagon Team Ireland versus Team England Challenger, or the Oktagon Challenge reality series, was their kind of entry point into the UK and Irish market, and to get people interested. And to be honest, I was familiar with Matt Elliott, but like the rest of the lads, I haven't been overly familiar with their careers to date up until now. And it's got me invested. It's got me kind of, they're on my radar. I'm going to probably keep an eye on them, and I'm sure they'll all get opportunities here. So I think it was a success from Oktagon's perspective. Now we can talk about the show at the event itself, but I think that the series was a success. And I think that these are lads that are very early on in their career. I don't think anyone's classifying anyone, now George Staines might be a different animal here, but I don't think anyone's classifying anyone as like a hot top prospect that's about to be a champion. These are lads that have just transitioned over from the amateurs. So yeah, we're covering them, like, there's interest in them, but like nobody's,
we can cover whoever we like.
Yeah, we have perspective here.
Yeah,
and it was interesting. Yeah, exactly.
So like, but we'll cover whatever we want to cover. And look, this was a show that was on Channel 4 in the UK. It did pick up a little bit of traction online. And you know what? Whether you like Dennis or whether you don't like Dennis or what he does or how he carries himself, like I said, it's up to you. But there's plenty of other guys on there that you can follow. And I think that Oktagon did a great job in turning a little bit of meaning into these early professional fights for all of these gentlemen that were involved. And
100%.
we'll talk, that's the way I look at it as well. So hopefully they continue to do that. We'll talk a little bit about Aaron McDonald now. Obviously, he was in there against Hassan Galazi. Things didn't really go his way. It's those calf kicks, man. They're very, very hard. He was taking them early, and you could see that it was affecting Aaron throughout the fight as well. But did very well, Andy. Very game throughout this fight with Galazi. Obviously, didn't go his way in the end, but something to build upon.
Yeah, like as you said, the story of this fight were the calf kicks, and he just, Galazi was very, very effective with them. He was butchering Aaron's leg at times. I thought Aaron had a couple of, he had moments of success, but they were typically at the end of the rounds where there just wasn't enough time to really mount any meaningful offense that would kind of negate the damage that Galazi had done. So it'll be a disappointing one for Aaron to take away. Obviously, he suffered a stoppage loss in the show itself. So he's going to have to go back to the drawing board. But yeah, it was, I think I had a 30-27. It was a fairly straightforward enough decision, and it was just all the calf kicks really from Galazi here.
100%. Caoilte, what do you think of everything that transpired in Team Ireland's kind of captain and head coach Shamrock? His fight got pulled after the weigh-ins, after a little bit of a skirmish where he landed a body kick onto the gentleman he was fighting's name was, guys, real quick.
Corny.
Yeah. Sorry, his name escaped me for a second, but what did you think of all of that, Caoilte?
Yeah, well, you shouldn't be throwing strikes to weigh-ins. That's the main thing about it. People can say that Picorni was looking for a way out, or he bitched out, or whatever, and fair enough. If you want to say that, I think that's completely fair. But he was, even, let's say it probably was an injury. We saw the video, and it looked like he was holding his ribs, and it's not, it's not good. You can't be doing it. They should have been separated earlier. There's a few ways you can look at it, but they shouldn't be throwing strikes at the weigh-ins. Wait until you're in the cage and then take it out on each other. Then I doubt it's going to be rebooked, that one afterwards. But I was really disappointed. I was looking forward to that. There was a really good build-up. It felt like this was kind of built around Shem as well, in a way, as well as the challenge final, and then it just didn't happen. And I don't think Oktagon didn't seem too happy from the statement they released either, the owner, one of the owners, but it is what it is. Like, a lot of lessons for everyone involved, not just Shamrock, not just Picorni, but for the promoters to have people in there sooner to break this up and stop this happening.
For sure. Look, at emotions are high, intentions are high before fights, but I think you hit the nail on the head, is that you gotta keep it together at the weigh-ins. You can say maybe someone had been put in between, but ultimately what caused it was the kick. You can't be throwing kicks, can't be doing anything like that. And just a moment of madness from Shamrock. And, Andy, Oktagon have a right to be a little bit aggrieved, as, they spent a lot of time building up this fight, building up Shamrock. And look, these things happen in MMA sometimes, but a moment of madness for Shamrock. And I'm sure he's regretting that today. He didn't get the chance to go out there and showcase his abilities either. And, lots of lessons to be learned, really, isn't there?
I mean, the bottom line is you've lost, even from his own perspective, he's lost a payday here, where, you've spent all this time and energy and money probably on a camp, on preparing yourself to fight a guy, and then it's gone, on the day of the fight. Oktagon, there was a lot of focus and effort put into, this is their first UK show. So when you have a popular guy like Shamrock, fighting, he's from Liverpool, so he's only not too far away. This is Manchester, obviously. You want him there. I just thought it was all a bit unnecessary. Look, this is fight sports as well, so these things happen. But I don't know. I just thought about the Jeremy Stevens Drakkar Closer, where it's the same thing, where Stevens put his hands on him, he gets injured. This is what happens. So you want to find that balance of treading the line of, where you're in each other's faces, you're building it, because there is that element of showmanship as well. And of course, these are human beings who have heightened emotions, and they're starved and drained, and they want to kill each other. So I can understand it, but when it spills over like this is the reality of the situation. So there's nobody really else to blame but yourself, unfortunately, here.
That's it. Yeah, it's harsh, and Shem probably won't want to hear that, but that's the facts of the matter.
I was really looking forward to seeing him fight, to be honest with you.
I was genuinely too. I was genuinely too looking forward to him. I think he's a fascinating character, and he's looking, in fairness to him, he's taken on this Team Ireland thing to the absolute limit. So fair play to him. And look, it's disappointing. We're disappointed we didn't get to see him fight, to talk about his fight. And I'm sure there's no man that's more disappointed than Shem. Look at it, just lost his cool for a little bit.
Yeah. And maybe they do book the rematch, and then it's even, there's more interest in it, and maybe they stick a few security guards in between.
That's it. They want a few. Definitely put the protection in between the two boys, and we'll see what happens. This brings us up to our first interview of the day, guys. Obviously, Cage Warriors London happening this Saturday, November 11th. Big show over in London. Lots of fighters. We have Sinéadh Ní Nualláin that's going to be making her Cage Warriors debut. We're going to head on over and speak to her first about her decision to turn to professional and joining up with Cage Warriors, amongst another couple of things as well. So I'm going to send it over for that interview right now.
And joining us on the Auld Triangle for the first time is Sinéadh Ní Nualláin ahead of her Cage Warriors debut, also her pro debut coming up this weekend. Sinéadh, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
You're a far cry away from home in London now recently.
I know. The long way away.
When did you decide to make the move in the first place? You've been moving mad from Mayo to Dublin, Waterford, and now London.
It took me a while to find somewhere that I felt like I belonged and felt like home. I was actually born in London, so my mum's family are over here. So I guess coming back over was just coming back over to family.
Are you able to stay with your family then, or is it a case where
so I live with my granny and my granddad, so my mum's mum and dad, so it's great.
Lovely then. And I guess originally, I remember meeting you back in 2018, and you were still training out in SBG Ballina, and then you made the move up to SBG Ireland all of a sudden, and now then obviously Waterford. But what was the decision in the first place to move away from SBG Ballina and actually pursue your dream in Dublin?
It's always been a dream. I've always wanted to be a professional fighter, and it got to a stage where when I was in SBG Ballina, I kind of hit a wall. I wasn't getting any better because the gym was very brand new. It was very there wasn't many high level guys. We were all kind of the same level. Do you know what I mean? So it did hit a time where I was like, look, I have to kind of move on if I want to go pro. So that's when I decided to go to Dublin, to SBG. What was
the experience like in Dublin then? I know you're there for quite a few years.
Yeah, I was there for 4 or 5 years. I can't fault it. It was the best 4 or 5 years of my entire life. I absolutely loved it up there. John's gym is absolutely amazing. It was just, when I moved to London, it was just kind of I had to move on. When you kind of hit that, again, when you hit that wall and you're kind of this isn't the right place for me. It was just a thing where I just had to go. Do you know what I mean?
This link with Team Underground, with Steve Cook and all the crew over there, where did that come from in the first place? Did you know them from before, or is it just something that randomly happened, or what happened
Quite a funny story. I actually fought Chanel Dyer in the Four Nations, and Chanel used to fight under Steve in Team Underground. So once I fought Chanel in the Four Nations, she obviously beat me, but we had a great fight, and then he asked me to go over and help his daughter with her professional camp. So I used to fly backwards and forwards for the 3 or 4 months to get rounds in, and then I eventually just said, I'm just going to move over here full time, because it just felt right. Felt like it was a good place, and Steve is the coach for me. We had that good connection, a lot better than the other ones.
I know you mentioned there you fought Chanel before, and obviously she's doing bits in PFL. I know she's training in GB Top Team a lot, but do you get to get rounds in with her every now and again? Does she drop back into the gym every now and again?
No, I haven't seen her since I've come in, do you know what I mean? But she looks like she's doing great things in GB Top Team, and that's the main thing, As long as you're happy where you are, that's the main thing.
One other name that we seen train around that gym before is the infamous Jonathan Haggerty. I'm not sure, do you get to see him around the place? Has he been in and out?
So his dad and his brother are in my corner for Cage Warriors, because Steve is away on holiday in Thailand. So I'm lucky to have both of them stepping up into my corner for Cage Warriors.
Brilliant. And look, the Cage Warriors news, very, very sudden, very, very recent as well. What was it like getting the call up for the first place? I know you said you're looking to go pro for quite a while. How far back were you looking to go pro, and how did this?
Since I moved about May time, I was looking to go pro. There was a couple of matchups that I agreed to, and we got matched up, and then there's pullouts, and it was just messy. So then she was like, just leave it to the new year. I'm sure it'll fall into place when it's meant to. And then randomly one day he was like, Sinead, we need to talk. And I was like, oh God, what happened? You know, you think of the worst. And then he said, oh, like there's a Cage Warriors fight, but it's up a weight class. And I was like, we immed and awed about it. And then I thought, you know what? I thrive under pressure. So I was like, let's just do it.
Obviously, this one's up the weight class as well. I saw the clip that Cage Warriors put out. You said you're usually looking to compete around flyweight, strawweight. Did you get a chance to test cuts before, even now that you're going pro in the amateur ranks? I know you had a few fights over in the UK.
Yeah, no, I'd be able to, yeah. No, it's strawweight would be a tight one for me to make, but I can make it if I put my mind to it. You know what I mean? I've never made strawweight before, so it's been a flyweight kind of amateur journey and bantamweight. So we'll see how it goes.
Fair. And I guess moving forward, then, is it going to be a case of trying to keep it flyweight then, or are you going to stick around?
No, I'm going to go down to strawweight, 100%. So there's a strawweight fight on Cage Warriors that I'm hoping to like fight the winner of that maybe in March. So that's the aim. At least then after this fight, I'll have the whole 3 or 4 months to get the weight down to strawweight. So
just to clarify for anyone, listen, so you're going in here on Saturday and you're fighting a bantamweight, so 135 pounds, right?
Yes.
And then the next plan is to go down 20 pounds and hit that 115 or 116 mark at strawweight. So I mean that's a big decision, like, you know, to going in your pro debut. It kind of, you know, it takes a lot of heart to go in and do that.
I've had not so much, but I've had backlash, and I've had more haters than I've ever had in my entire life since I've taken this fight. People giving their opinions and stuff, and they think I'm mental. But yeah, it is mad. It is a risk, but really, I have nothing to lose. I only have to gain. Like, do you know what I mean? I can only gain experience, and I can gain, you know, hopefully Cage Warriors think I'm good, and then maybe they'll ask me back. You know, if I lose, I'm 22. I can just reset and go again. Do you know what I mean?
It's kind of like your foot in the door, isn't it?
This is what I mean. This is what you want to do. I couldn't get my foot in the door for the whole year, so now I've been given the opportunity. It was just a decision: do I go to bantamweight or do I not? But I decided to. So we'll see how it goes.
Given the success of Irish MMA and especially the women's MMA in Ireland as well, do you think it's kind of the perfect time to turn pro with kind of the focus, a massive focus being surrounding Irish MMA at the moment?
Yeah, 100%. There's so many more female fighters. Even in amateur, you can see them all on the local shows like IUR and all that. So I think that there's going to be a lot more pro females coming out of Ireland very, very soon.
One of the pro females who competed recently was Danni McCormack. I know I used to train together in SPG Ireland. When you see her on the stages like Invicta, winning world titles and calling for that shot at the UFC, is that kind of a motivation and kind of almost inspiring for you, seeing her achieve those?
100%. I still speak to Danni. You know what? She still supports me. I still support her. It's great. You know, I was like trained with Danni for 5 years. She used to beat me up in the gym for like 3 or 4 years. You know, so it is great to see her doing things, and I'm sure the UFC will call her very, very soon.
With Cage Warriors, they don't tend to usually have these women's divisions as much, don't fill them out really. But do you think now there's an opportunity where they can actually start building a good division and maybe have a run at a title? Is that what you're looking at in the future with them? Yeah, like I'm hoping that that's what they do. There is 2-3 strawweight fights on the next few Cage Warriors, and there is some other bantamweight fights. So hopefully they're starting to bring more girls in, that there will be enough to create a division and create a title.
Sinead, you've been fighting a few years now, and obviously we were chatting there about, you know, finding a gym that kind of feels right for you. How did you, like, what was your entry point into martial arts? Caoilte mentioned, and you were chatting there about SPG Ballina, but like what sparked your love, I guess, for MMA? You said it's always been a dream there.
Yeah, so my dad does Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he did traditional Jiu-Jitsu for years. So when I was about 5 or 6, he was like, see you later, and you go, I used to hate it. I used to hate Jiu-Jitsu. I used to hate judo, used to do JKD, do kickboxing. It's kind of when I hit the age of like 10, 11, and I started doing full contact that I was like, oh, actually, you know, I actually really enjoy this. And then when I was about 16 is when I transferred to SPG Ballina, which would have been MMA.
I mean, you know, when you've been, you know, you found a home now in Team Underground, what is it that clicked? Like, what, when you're looking for maybe whether it's a coach or a training style or an environment that suits you and is a good fit for you, what was it that clicked there, or you know, what was it that stood out?
It was the size of the gym. It was the amount of people in it. Like, there isn't too many people. I find it very hard to train in a gym that there's like 80 people on the mat. Do you know what I mean? There's 30 to 40, and there's there's 15 girls within my weight class. And as well, it was Steve as well. Like, Steve was a huge help to me. You know, there was a fight in Scotland and I had no coach, and he was there and he stepped up and he coached me. Do you know what I mean? So there is other things, but it was the environment. It was having the smaller gym, but having the right people in that small amount of people, if that makes sense.
So, but it sounds like, you know, being able to have that kind of one-to-one relationship where, like, SBG, I suppose it's a blessing and a curse in some ways, where the success of the gym and the fighters in the gym, it's so huge now and so successful. But on the other hand, it's probably very difficult to get one-to-one coaching at times. Am I right in saying that's kind of where the benefit of this gym now for you?
Yeah, everybody's different. Like, some people love training with like 80 people, 70. I just me as a fighter, I need that one-to-one. I'll have 101 questions and, you know, I need to get them out. Do you know what I mean? So having that big gym just didn't suit me. Just wasn't for me. Yeah,
and obviously it's a transitionary period right now going pro. I've watched you compete a few times. You had a brilliant fight with Carrie-Anne Vernon at the Nationals. But I would say, the early parts of your amateur career, you were having these really solid fights, but you weren't getting the results. Like, when you reflect on your amateur career, like, how do you see it looking back on it from now? Obviously, you're making the transition to pro now.
I think my amateur career went as how it was meant to go. Do you know? Yeah, I went 0-4 for my first 4 fights, and I could have given up. And I could have said, you know what, I'm not doing this. I'm going to go, I don't know, be a teacher or something. Do you know what? But I didn't. I kind of kept to it. And I don't think you can teach that. I think you can't teach heart. Like, I have that grit and I have the heart that I was like, no, I'm going to keep going. And when I did drop to fly and when I did drop my weight, I did win. But then when I moved to the UK, I went on a 4-fight win streak. So I think it kind of showed that the move to the UK did help me a lot.
And I'm sure it was tough as well, because you're what, I'm right to say, your tapology of the list anyway is 5'1", so fighting at 135, the girls are a lot taller for the most part.
I know.
That presents an extra challenge, right?
Yeah, of course, it always did. But even when I was fighting kickboxing when I was 7, 8, 9, 10, they were always taller than me, regardless of the way I was in. Do you know what I mean? Even in strawweight, I'm going to be the smallest in the division. Trust me. I'm going to be 5 foot nothing in strawweight. Do you know what I mean? So I think it is a disadvantage, but if I can twist it, I can use it as an advantage.
Do you kind of see that, like, is it almost like a chip on your shoulder to say, right, I'm going to go in here and show these tall girls what I'm made of?
Show everyone what I'm made of. People doubt me when they see me. They think, Jesus, this small ginger Irish one. Do you know what I mean? And then I can actually fight, like, do you know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
With your opponent, I've watched her 2 fights now in Cage Warriors against Jasmine Favreau, and then her last fight went as well against Kate Batchich. And look, she seems to really enjoy getting into a war. And one thing I've noticed from not all your fights, quite a lot of them, is you're more than happy to stand and bang with a lot of these girls. Yeah. So when you're looking at a girl who's willing to stand in the cage, do you expect this one to be a war, or do you think you can take advantage of the grappling aspect of it?
No, I don't think it would be a war. I don't think it will go past the first 2 rounds, if I'm honest. Her grappling isn't as good a level as me. I'm the aim of the game is to out-wrestler. And my wrestling has come a long way since I moved to the UK. So, she is bigger than me. But, I mean, if I can get a good secured position, I think that, the first 2 rounds, it should be over.
You reckon that? Go ahead, Ian.
No, I was just going to say, Sinead, yourself and our partner here, Caoilte, are Oscailga, and he was telling me a fantastic story before. I don't know whether he was going to ask it or not, but he told me a story before you came on about a time at Cage Legacy in Tala, where Caoilte was asked to go around and to find people who could talk Oscailga just about the fight card and everything like that. And he said he was having a hell of a time trying to find people in Tala that were able to talk Irish, and he said that you saved his graces during that event. Do you remember that interaction?
Yeah, I remember that. That was a couple of years ago.
It wasn't even MMA back then, it was kickboxing, I think.
No, it was K1.
Gee, I tell you what, I never found such a hard time going around. It was in Tala looking for people to speak Irish, and some lad goes, oh yeah, that girl there, she speaks a couple of fuckle. I was like, this is brilliant. Do you still speak Irish?
Yeah, so they're actually doing a documentary. RTE are doing a documentary on kind of me and the women's MMA, but they need to do it through Irish, and no one speaks Irish but me. So it was great. Yes, that's coming along nicely as well.
That's brilliant. What's the name of the documentary?
I don't think they've got that far yet. I don't think we know the name of it yet. But we've done a bit of recording and stuff, so
So are they following you around filming and stuff, or what's going on?
Yeah, they're coming over to England now in January to get a bit of footage. But yeah, it's all in Irish. It's going to be on the RT channel.
That's incredible. And how did that even come up? Did it just get onto you?
He just messaged me and was like, "I heard you speak Irish." That was it.
That's brilliant.
That was it. So I just go along with it.
Look, it's good publicity.
Sinead, what's it been like as a woman coming up through the MMA scene in Ireland? Like nowadays, it's a lot more thriving. There's a lot, you look around everywhere. There's women fighting, but it hasn't always been this way. What's your experience of it been like? Primarily training with men for the most part.
Yeah, like when I was in SPG Ballina, there wasn't one female. It was like men. It was like grown men, So it did teach me a lot. It did teach me strength, obviously, and going against the men. Then when I did go with the females, it was a lot easier. But I think nowadays it's easier to get matched than it was back then.
And what is your dad still, firmly involved in martial arts? And does he have a lot of input into your? Does he give you advice or?
Yeah, he gives his opinion. You know how it is. I started before you, that kind of way. But he's coming to my fights. He's always been at my fights. He loves it. My mum is the opposite. My mum is like standing in the back, not wanting to watch. But no, they're a great support. I have to say they used to drive me to all my kickboxing. When we lived in Mayo, they used to drive me to Dublin. You know what I mean? So they've been great. They've been very supportive. And
then obviously only 5 days out from your fight now. What are the emotions like typically on fight week for you?
Typically, I'm usually really nervous, but this week I'm more excited. There are nerves, but I feel like I'm ready. Do you know what I mean? I feel like I've done the best I can. So,
look, we've kept you now for about 15 minutes, and we really appreciate the time, Sinead. You said you don't see it going past second round, but can you give us an official prediction before you go?
Probably TKO or submission, one or the other.
Brilliant. And for anyone watching, you can catch Sineadh Ní Nualláin make her pro debut at Cage Warriors 163 in London this weekend on UFC Fight Pass. Sinead, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Moving on, lads, a bit of drama in the world of Ian Garry ahead of his fight against Vicente Luque at UFC 296 in December. Reports came out last week that he was ousted from Team Renegade.
Ousted.
Yeah. When you use that word, it puts an air of seriousness around it, don't it, lads? But look at I kind of talked about this a little bit with Graham last week. I'll send it over to you guys. I'll see what you guys think. Maybe I'll send it over to Andy first. Get your thoughts on the whole situation here and how you kind of see it going down. And, loosely how I could kind of set you up for it is that it's something that happens out in the fight world, I think. When you have somebody like Ian that is rightfully going and trying to gain and garner as much skills as possible, to me, there's nothing wrong with that at all. And I would say it's a similar thing where there's nothing really too wrong with Leon Edwards telling him that he doesn't want to be at Team Renegade. I think that's Leon's home gym. It's his right to do that. And yeah, no one's really in the right or wrong, but it does create a good lot of storylines. It does create speed, Andy. I mean, the two of these guys, potentially couldn't be too far away from fighting each other down the line. And it's just an extra little bit of juiciness surrounding this. Both of them fighting at UFC 296. And a little bit of juiciness created around here. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the whole.
Are you saying it could be a tactic here, Ian, is it?
Could be a tactic, yeah. Even if you never want to mince his words or to be outspoken, and yeah, I mean, it creates a storyline, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sure does. I mean, I suppose we can only really go off of what has been put out in the public domain, which is Ian Garry coming out and saying, Leon Edwards and his coach have said I can't train in the gym, that he's there's insecurities there. I don't have the exact terms in front of me here now, but and then Team Renegade essentially coming back and saying, well, hang on a second here, that's not Wyatt, and it wasn't a single coach or a fighter here. But ultimately, Ian is no longer welcome at Team Renegade. So this is the second gym that Ian has now been, I guess, refused entry or has been told don't come back from. Obviously, we're all aware of what happened with Team KF a number of years ago. I think this one's I think this one's very different, to be honest with you, because
100%.
back then it was, you have a long-standing relationship with coaches and teammates, and whatever happened behind the scenes, there was a bit more to it from a longevity perspective. Ian now is, as his wife and manager Layla has told me, they are essentially approaching their camps like boxing. So they want to center everything around him, where they bring in training partners here and there, or he goes to another gym or this and that. But there's challenges here. I think there's real challenges with doing that, because you're going to different gyms. You don't have the same level of trust and, camaraderie, and you just don't have the same relationship as you would if you were training at a gym full time, and you build trust over time with coaches, with teammates. You're not going to have that when you're dipping in and out. So look, that's not to say that this will happen every single time, but clearly that there was some sort of conflict, or he didn't mesh well with Team Renegade by the looks of things, and they don't want him back. So to me, that's a bit of an issue, in the sense that if Ian's going to be traveling around, well, does that then, what happens if they are in the UK and they're spending some time there for their camps? Is it is there another gym? Do you go to, I don't know. I saw
he's over at Diego Lima's gym over in Chutabox in Brazil now. So for rounding off the camp over there, it would appear I've seen him at the weigh-ins for the UFC, etc. Like that. So there's always avenues where you can go. But that is going to create more problems, perhaps, as well, as you get better, as you move up the rankings. It's we've got to give a shout out to Alex Patel, who kind of broke this news on the Independent, did an excellent job in getting the news out there. Was since on with PT Carroll on the crack to talk about it a little bit more. And for me, Caoilte, I don't know how you feel. For me, it's not a super big deal, because this kind of stuff happens behind the scene in gyms all the time, with guys coming and going. And look at when I was coming up watching Conor McGregor, the success he had with being loyal to SBG was great, but the common opinion of a lot of people was, how good could he be if he spread himself out and is actually doing what Ian Garry is doing right now? Which I've always said, it to develop yourself as a fighter, Caoilte, you got to spread yourself out a little bit, but of course it's going to kind of come true and kind of cause some problems like this as well. But I think it's going to be manageable from all accounts, and what we are going to end up is that if Ian stays winning and Leon stays winning, is that we're going to have a big juicy storyline heading into that fight, if it's to happen down the line. What's your thoughts on everything happening? You've been involved in gym settings and stuff like that, and there's lots of comings and goings in gyms overall in all combat sports.
I don't know if it's a massive deal. I think it's a great story, don't get me wrong. I think it adds a great narrative if the fight happens. Even, I think it was mentioned on Pete Carroll's podcast, The Crack, where if they're at the same press conference, it will just make brilliant stories and questions and a bit of tension here and there.
Ian's going to chime up as well.
That's it,
I'm going to be down, hopefully, there at the press conference to ruffle a few feathers. And
I'm expecting a good question from you, Ian.
Ask a couple of questions. Yeah, all going to plan there. That's not confirmed yet, but hopefully I will get down there. But all valid questions. We've not heard Leon talk about that himself, so I would expect, Leon to say, we welcomed him into the gym. We wanted to help nurture and help him grow. But Ian Garry is a legitimate rival for Leon Edwards now, whether anybody wants to believe it. And obviously, if he goes out there and gets a win over Vicente Luque, Andy, we could be talking about maybe one fight, maybe two fights, and then you're in a title shot if you're Ian Garry. So we're not that far away from a potential Leon Edwards versus Ian Garry fight if it was to happen. So you can understand Leon's perspective.
100%. You've got a lad coming in who's like, hang on, I don't really know this guy, and he's coming in here, and I know I'm trying to be careful because I don't know. I think I believe on PT's podcast he had said that there were members from the team had said they were coming in with the camera crew. Now I don't know if that's, I'm kind of cautiously saying that because I don't know if that is a fact, but if let's say if that is the case, then
there was three main statements. I'm looking at the article here from you can get that on the independent.co.uk. Three main things that were cited in the article was from Ian Garry, he said there was doubts and insecurities in the welterweight champion and his coach, and that he was refused entrance as he did not add to the team culture. So those are what we're hearing.
The second part is from Renegade, not from Ian, right? That he didn't add to the team culture.
Team Renegade. Well, it said no, that was suggested that he did not add to the team's culture.
Okay.
So that would have been from team at Renegade would have said that he was not adding to the team culture. So
all right, so it's two things. It's either they don't like Ian. It's like, this is just looking from the outside. They don't like Ian and they don't want him there, and I don't know whatever behavior, they're not happy with it, or they don't want a contender in there that's kind of eyeing up Leon, and in 2 fights time, after going in and training with him and kind of downloading all his secrets in training, and he's just going to use it against them for a potential fight. So completely understandable either way. It just is what it is, really. But like, what I'm more interested in, I'd love to get Ian on and chat to him about this. Like, if they're they seem to base themselves in the UK a decent amount. Obviously, sometimes they're in the US, sometimes in Brazil, sometimes in the UK. So what happens now? Like, do you keep going back to the UK, or do you spend less time there? Do you find a new gym there? Because Renegade is a top gym there. So like,
well, it would be up there, in my opinion, up at one of the best gyms in the UK now. Obviously, you have London Shoot Fighters and a couple of our GB top team as well. There's plenty of options there. Like, I mean, if people are interested in getting Ian Garry in, I don't think he's going to be short of anywhere to go, to be honest. But I look at this as the overall kind of circumstance here is that Leon Edwards is the UFC welterweight champion, and Ian Garry is the primary kind of guy that's coming forward as a prospect here that may challenge Leon Edwards. So you're not going to, as Leon Edwards wants to give Ian Garry the chance to kind of look and get some looks when you're sparring, getting some feels, because that's, you're downloading information when you're sparring. And I feel that maybe Leon Edwards thinks that whole situation is more of a negative for him than it is for Ian Garry. And I think that's well within his rights, as it is well within Ian Garry's rights to spread himself out and go to whatever gym that he wants to go to. But at the end of 100%. The day, when you do that, you're going to cause problems. An interesting story. We had to talk.
It does make a nice storyline. I love a good storyline. So I hope
at them out here.
I hope from a pure entertainment perspective, Ian talks a bunch of shit at the press conference to Leon, and then Leon goes back at him, and then it builds towards something. So hopefully
we can get him here before that, and we can hear his thoughts on that. But definitely was worth pointing out, having a little bit of a chit chat. Was curious to hear what you guys thought of it as well. Lots of thoughts, guys, moving on the PFL Dublin card, which was announced last week. A little bit of a shambles, if we're being honest. The announcement was put up, taken down. We had some fights that have been pulled out that were originally reported on to us by PFL. The main one being obviously Lewis McGrillen versus Matis Sarahofs. That was supposed to be originally on the card, was originally announced on the PR statement by PFL and reported by SevereMMA. We found out, and Andy in particular found out after the fact, that fight had fallen through at the final hour due to a contract dispute. Sarahofs is off the card. McGrillen will now take on Wesley Maya, which is a good addition. On top of that, we originally heard news that John Mitchell was set to headline the card in his lightweight championship final over Jakub Kazuba. That has now changed to Nathan Kelly, who will come in and take on Dimitri Solomis of France in a showcase featherweight fight at the top of the card, with Franz Malambo versus Kurashad Kakarov as your co-main event. John Mitchell now down onto the third last fight on the card. Also the additions of Dylan Tuke, Nate Kelly from the amateur ranks, the additions of Brett Johns, Tom Breeze. Obviously, we spoke about Andreas Binder. Ben Davis will take on Don Wooding. Who am I missing? Simeon Powell, Dakota Dacheva, Dylan Tuke as well. Lots to unpack from this card. Caoilte, what do you make of it all? The announcements, the card, everything that went on over the past week or so. We finally have the somewhat finalised card. Nate Kelly at the top, Franz Malambo co-main event. Your thoughts, please, on all the action and reaction from that card itself.
I'm not banking on it being the final card, to be honest with you. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a few more changes given their current trend, for Christ's sake. It's quite frustrating to watch happen. But look, if it is the finalised card, brilliant. At least we know what's happening. I do like the card. I think maybe not as strong as I would have imagined it could have been, but I do really like it. There's some good names in it. There's some good fights. Where do I begin? Look, the two finals, brilliant. Nate Kelly booking, fantastic, good opportunity for him to headline inside 3 Arena.
What do you think about the main event? The main event fight itself.
I was getting to that. I think that's the big talking point here, guys, is that we're missing a marquee main event off this card. Look, at the championship fights are excellent. They're all excellent fights. It's brilliant to see Gillian Chuk coming back. Ben Davis getting a shot. That was a surprise to us all. Fair play, he's coming in against a tough fight in Don Wooding. But if we were to compare some of the events that we've gotten this year so far, and if we were to try and maybe compare this event to what they're hoping to do, and that's sell out the 3 Arena, I think they're going to be struggling to do that with this card, to be honest. I think they're going to probably struggle to get maybe half of it sold at this rate. And that might sound harsh.
To be honest, I think they struggle with any card that they put on to set out the 3 Arena. So I think that to half fill it would be a success, almost, in my opinion. I don't know, we haven't seen a proper sellout in a while. Like, it would, one of the earlier.
That's not to take away from Nathan Kelly or originally John Mitchell, who was like either one. I'm delighted for those boys that they're getting the opportunity, but it seems that we're missing a little bit of a marquee main event in the likes of maybe if we had a Brendan Loughnane fight, if we had a Cedric Doumbé fight, if we had maybe somebody else that was added onto the card. It's like to give it that little bit more of an oomph. Look, at the card is great. It's a great card from top to tail, but I think, if we're going to come on to the Auld Triangle, and you can tell me I'm wrong if I shouldn't have this opinion, we're talking about competition here. And we've been talking about the likes of Cage Warriors and Bellator coming in, and now PFL coming in as well, and creating that competition. What we've seen in Bellator have been better main events, to be honest. We saw a welterweight showcase fight with Amasov, and the big story of him coming back down off of and defending his title after coming from war, and that was a fantastic fight that he had with Logan Storley. We had Johnny Eblin, who was for Bellator, who's many consider up there with the top 3, top 2 middleweights in all of mixed martial arts right now, coming in against Fabian Edwards, obviously a hot commodity in the UK and Ireland scene as well. So, those are the kind of headliners that I would be trying to compare this card to. Maybe fairly or unfairly is up to you. But if you're looking to create that competition, if it's a thing where this competition is going to keep on going in Ireland, you're going to have to be putting together good solid cards on paper. Look, at if you go there, the card could be unbelievable. We could have each one of these fights could be absolutely savage, but cards aren't sold off thoughts and prayers. Cards are sold based off paper and name value, to be honest. And I would think, while it is a solid card, I think it is missing a marquee main event. That would be my overall opinion on it.
It's the opponent for Nate for me. I think Nate's brilliant. So we'll call him Old Nate Kelly.
Let's call him Nate. We'll call him Old
Nathan Kelly.
Nathan. Yeah.
Fingless Nate Kelly. I think he's brilliant. I think he's a brilliant fighter. I've enjoyed what they've been doing. I've had a bunch of people onto me kind of being like, "Oh, why? Like, what's this matchup for Nate or this matchup?" And I think it's very clear to me that PFL are kind of showcasing Nate at the moment and prepping him for a next step. Now, I do think it's time to give him a better matchup. Like, if he's going to be put in there, say, because I don't know what the crack is if he's going into a European tournament, if he's going into a worldwide tournament, because there was no 145 one last year for the Europeans. If he's going to get thrown in with the likes of Loughnane and Marlon Moraes and all these lads, we need to bridge the gap at some point to where he's fighting a guy who's not quite maybe that level, but a step in the right direction. So to put him in a main event here against a completely unknown guy in Dimitris Suleiman, I just don't think that captures the hearts and minds of Irish fans, and it's not Nate's fault at all. But as you said, as a marquee kind of headliner, it's not going to do it. It's just not going to do it for fans, and that's no fault of Nate's.
No, No, not at all. And like you're 100% right what you're saying. I understand what the PFL, your first time coming in there, you have to put on some kind of a showcase fight. You don't want to be going in there and throwing anybody to the wolves. We're talking about this is going to be an absolute guarantee win for Nathan Kelly. It probably is, to be real, based off what we've seen from him this past year. That's kind of my opinion. I don't want to completely pour cold water. We're hoping to speak with Dan Hardy about this card and see what the thought process was in putting some of these fights together. I think we have to be honest in our assessment. If I was at home, there would be no doubt about it, I would go to this card. It's a fantastic card, but look, we're catering to the hardcore fans here, and in order to be a successful promotion, you've got to also cater to the somewhat casual fans, or draw some people that may be on the fence. We're thinking about the end of the year, getting close to Christmas. We've got Katie Taylor fight that's happening a couple of weeks before that. Like I'm saying, competition here. When there's competition there, you've got to be looking to stand head and shoulders above that competition. And it's a solid start for PFL. I think we're only talking about the addition of one big marquee.
Well, I think we should let's go down through the card, because I think there's definitely we're positive points to highlight.
Yeah. Real quick, we got, because we're moving on in time. We'll definitely focus on this a lot more, but all the championship fights here are class, Andy.
Yeah, and for me, the Andreas Binder versus Daniel Scatizzi fight, that's a cracker of a fight. It's a guy, SPG fight. Charlestown versus SPG Ireland, brilliant. That's the type of fight you want to see. I thought that the Matisse Zaharovs and Lewis McGrillen one, I was surprised that it was being made, but I thought that was brilliant. I thought that would get loads of people invested. Obviously, that fell out. I just think that this card, had Dylan Tuke won a semi-final, and if you had John Mitchell versus Dylan Tuke in a main event for a title, that would have been class. That would have been an absolute no-brainer. It's a pity that didn't happen. I'm really looking forward to seeing all the Irish on here, and I even some of the other ones. But yeah, it's maybe we'll talk about it a bit more, and we can chat. Look, we can chat about it with Dan Hardy if we can get him on.
We're talking about it just as it's been announced here, guys. We're going to look at all of these fights, and as it naturally happens with everybody, the closer that this card gets, the more excited that people will get for it. And we're not disparaging this card as a whole, or anybody that's on it, or anybody that's in the position that they find themselves in on that card. It's just looking from the outside in, from our perspective. I can't wait to watch this card from top to tail, Caoilte. I'm sure you are too. Is there any standout fights that you're looking forward to it on it? And we have Valentina Scatizzi, like a brother and sister combination on it. Valentina has the chance to take out one of the top prospects in Dakota Dacheva in the world mixed martial arts right now. And as Andy already said, Andreas Binder, fantastic to see him getting his chance on the big show as well. Anything else that stands out to you?
And the Lambo fight in particular against Kershaw Kakarov, these two guys, I'm pretty sure they trained together quite a bit in SBG, so it's a nice little story behind that. Two guys that have previously trained together. It's a very good matchup, and then they both meet in Dublin. It comes full circle. It's funny how the world works that way, where you can be training partners in a few years back and now you're opponents. And I kind of like that aspect too, and I think it's a very good fight as well. Franz Malambo, as we all know, is uber entertaining when he gets in the cage. It's must-watch action, so that's kind of the standout one for me. So there's a few surprises on the card, but I really enjoyed the Scatizzi fights, as you mentioned. Brilliant. I love the Dacheva and Valentina one. That's just brilliant. I think that'll be a very good striking matchup, to be honest with you. But overall quite good. But we'll talk about it more in future weeks, I imagine. Yeah.
Continuing on with the action and some of the things that are happening on the island, lads. Cage Conflict went down this past weekend. Another successful show at the Devonish. James Hughes and Ben Johnson took up the main event slot. Tiernan Lochran was fighting Shea Clean, Shea Leatham. A lot of good performances on the card. Andy, I'm going to head over to you directly for the main event between James Hughes and Ben Johnson. James taking home the unanimous decision win in the main event in a pro fight. Oh, was that a pro fight? I don't believe. Was it a pro?
No, that was amateur. That was amateur. So it was the amateur welterweight title. Yeah, so it was a good fight. It was a gritty, hard fought, back and forth affair between the two of them. With James obviously taking two of the rounds, 29-28 in all scorecards. He landed. They were trading heavy leather from early on. Johnson actually landed a lovely right hook early on, which kind of wobbled Hughes, but Hughes kind of got back into the fight, and it was a real gritty one, to be honest. And for me watching it, I was kind of to be honest, like my main, I was I'm not gonna lie, I forgot that there was another fight after the Tiernan Loughran fight coming on here, so I was kind of like a bit frazzled, a bit all over the place. I don't know why, it was just a brain fart. So it was a bit all over the place. But yeah, no, like James Hughes looks to be a tidy fighter coming out of FAI, and look, it was Johnson looked very solid as well. So it'd be interesting to see.
It was a very well matched fight, like, really, Andy, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was close
absolutely.
throughout. Like, even though 29-28 by unanimous decision kind of tells its own story. A couple of close rounds in there, and a very tight, well matched fight, I would say. Yeah,
definitely. And like Johnson definitely had his moments too. Like the first round was wild. The second round, he was kind of going for an anaconda towards the end of the second, and looked like he was kind of coming close to it, but he survived, and then it was a really solid fight.
100%. Caoilte, Tiernan Loughran looked really, really good in his fight against Rory Lafferty. Second round submission, a head and arm choke. Really impressive by Tiernan here. I know we're all massively impressed by that performance, and the pro ranks should become a calling fairly soon after probably his next one. What were your thoughts on his performance overall?
Really, really good. Composed all the way through. He the takedowns, as we've seen before, are really, really strong. Looks dominant when he gets on top. Lavery had some very good moments as well. But I must admit, it was one way of traffic then in the second round, and Loughran choked him sleep with a head and arm choke. It was brilliant, and I'd agree. We're speaking off in the group chat there last night about how we think he might be could be pro ranks next, and I think he may have hinted that one more amateur fight and he might go pro next year. Is it
one more at Ur, isn't it, Andy?
Yeah, he's booked for Ur, so he's taken on I think Mark Soup from Hooligan Martial Arts in only a couple of 4 weeks time at Ur, so I might actually tip up to that one and have a look.
Nice. Yeah, very good, very exciting. Obviously, Tiernan following in the footsteps of his brother Caolan.
You'd be ringing him up as soon as he finishes that fight.
I was going to say we could probably get into it after the next one about the pathway forward for Tiernan Loughran, but I agree with what you said there, Caoilte. Definitely, if you're Ian Dean, you'll be picking up the phone, you'll be keeping a watchful eye over Tiernan Loughran there. It'd be a great fit. Andy, moving over to you, the interim middleweight title was fight went down between Shea Leatham and Marco Cardillo. It was a first round rear naked choke win for Shea Leatham in a very, very impressive performance here.
Yeah, he did well to kind of turn this around fairly quickly. So Leatham opened with a bicycle kick deep, and it didn't really go too well for him. Like, it was entertaining, but Cardillo kind of got him down pretty quickly. There was kind of a bit of a controversy over a spike, or what was kind of labeled as a spike, where Leatham kind of had the back. Cardillo had the back. Leatham kind of dove forward, kind of rolled forward, and kind of slammed Cardillo. I think it's perfectly legal. We were kind of chatting about it off air as well. When you think back to like a James Webb, Matthias Frederick, where the weight is being fully controlled by the other person, that's a spike. I think Cardillo had the opportunity to, if he wanted to, could have let go of the position and gotten out of it there. But yeah, great stuff from Leatham, who managed to turn the fight around and then and secured the rear naked choke in round one. So clinical stuff from him there once he escaped the position.
Yeah, absolutely. About the spike, I would kind of tend to agree as well. I know, Caoilte, you said it was a little bit tough and stuff like that. I didn't think it was a spike. I remember looking at it first view and I was like, I grimaced a little bit. It's like one of those. Like, the oblique kick. You know the way you can land that oblique kick to the knee. It's a nasty ass technique. It's one that's with the intent to hurt your opponent, but it's a valid technique as well. In my
it doesn't look pretty, but it's completely legal.
It's effective, and we've seen it happen time and time again. But very, very good performance from Shea Leatham to turn it around, getting that submission via rear naked choke. I'll stay with you first. Obviously, I'll get both your guys' opinion on Shea Cleland, because we were all massively impressed. We were watching along this event yesterday, and he went out there. Shea Cleland took out Kieran Heaney via second round TKO. And it was a very well-rounded performance from Shea Cleland of Team Torres, and he is definitely one at 19 years of age, guys, picking up the flyweight title here. He's one that we need to put an asterisk on. There's a guy that we're going to be definitely keeping an eye on, given the level of performances he's been showcasing. And this was another impressive one, Caoilte.
Yeah, he looks savage. For 19 to look so composed in the cage and put on a performance like that it's incredibly impressive, and it makes you really excited about what's next, because by the time he's 21, he could be an absolute world beater in the amateur ranks before moving on to pro. If he doesn't go on before that, like, he looks so good out there. He came out swinging. He set a mad pace to that fight. You know, it was he was landing hard shots. He did very, very, very good throughout. So look, really excited to see what's next for him. And there's not many flyweights around either, so you can probably pick.
Oh, I disagree. I think we are ripe for flyweights at the moment. And there's a heap of matchups. So we got Kieran Coogan. We obviously just fought Kieran Heaney. We got Damien McGuigan, Jamie Abbott-Bissett, Omas Oliver. They've already fought, I think, already. I think there's a heap of matchups you can make at the moment. And all those lads are looking like killers. So I completely disagree with you, Caoilte.
Candy, obviously you were impressed by Shea Cleland. If you want to share some of your thoughts on his performance, and maybe take us through some of the other standout performances that you've seen on the card as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, just to echo what you guys have said, I think he looked great, and I think his control of range was brilliant. The way he was kind of slipping in and out of range and picking his shots, and I just thought he looked a lot more composed than I've seen him in. You know, he tends to get into kind of wars sometimes. I remember seeing him fighting Nate Kelly, a win earlier on this year, I think it was the Nationals, and that one turned into an absolute war. But yeah, I'm very, very impressed with him. I suppose looking at the rest of the card, very impressed by Omas Oliver. He had a lovely head kick KO. We just kind of mentioned him there a minute ago. He's on the card against Paul Nolan. So I think again, he was something like maybe 19 years old or 18 years old or something like that as well, or around that. And Paul, I think is around 34. I was thinking he was probably fighting around the time that you were fighting, Ian, was he?
Who's that?
Paul Nolan.
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
All right, fair enough.
He has been around.
Retract that statement.
I know that Paul had a big history in kind of kickboxing and stuff, and kind of moved over to mixed martial arts. But by the time I had stopped training in Kilkenny, Paul wasn't on the scene there, to be fair. So I can't say that I was, but thanks for highlighting though that I'm an old bastard as well.
You're very, very old.
Carl McCann, haircut, lads. The hairs are gone.
Grey hairs.
It's like my barber said yesterday. I was like, now you have 25% of your grey hairs gone off your head. I'm happy to help out. I was like, thanks very much.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, moving on. Sorry.
No, you're all good. Carl McCann had a great comeback submission, pulled off the guillotine in the second round against Michael Shields. Shields looked very, very solid early on. But yeah, it was kind of not a Hail Mary, but it was a comeback submission definitely for Carl McCann. I was impressed by that. And then a couple of other ones. There was a big heavyweight fight between Rory Murphy and CMAC and Mick McCulloch of FAI. Murphy looks incredibly quick. He landed some big shots on McCulloch. McCulloch managed to survive early on after taking one of those shots, but Murphy followed up then and put him away against the cage. It was, for a big man, there was some seriously quick hands on him. So looking forward to seeing that. And then the biggest fight in the card, let's be honest, at least at name value, is Darragh Loughran versus Darragh Loughran. The Battle of the Loughrans happened. Darragh Loughran, as I predicted, won this fight, so you can cash your.
We all got this one right, didn't we? We all
did. But he also lost. So it was the ZKJ Darragh Loughran that won via decision. But fair play. Look, these are lads just starting their career, so we don't need to go into technical analysis. But they went. I have in my notes they went at it hammer and tongs. So
perfect.
It was a good crack fight.
Yeah, you can catch that. I believe if you haven't seen any of that action, you can get the pay-per-view stream over on Cage Conflict's Instagram. A couple of great fights. Obviously, Cage Conflict doing a phenomenal job in showcasing all the up-and-coming Irish talent across all of the gyms. And that leads us to another Irish talent, and that's Adam Darby, who's the second of our interviews today, right ahead of his fight at on London. This weekend on Saturday. We're going to head on over and speak to Adam about that fight right now.
And now we are joined by Team Rhino's Adam the Plank Darby, who's taking on Thorsten Jacobs this Saturday at Cage Wars 163, a late notice addition to the card. And welcome to the show, Adam. How are you?
Lads, how are you? Thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to getting on, and I'm looking forward for a good interview.
You've been looking forward to getting on, have you?
Yeah, man. You know, it's been a while. You're doing this a while. I was waiting for the call.
Oh wow, this is brownie points. Now you're looking very stylish here at the moment. I see the North Face, they must be paying you the big bucks over in San Diego, are they?
They're going to have to start for me to keep up this lifestyle, you know, shopping like I'm a millionaire when I'm not.
Do you like the fashion, do you?
No, not really. I wear a lot of plain clothes, but I like an old shopping day out, you know.
Plain clothes. Do you mind standing up there?
I knew you were going to say Let me check these out. Boom. It is. And a pair of Cookie Monster pajamas.
This is the last interview I'm ever getting with you. I'm absolutely thrown you. Well, all jokes aside, welcome to the show. But look, you've been an international jet setter as of late. So you've spent the last 3 months, I believe, training over in San Diego. Can you talk to us a little bit about that and what that experience has been like over at the MMA Fight Academy?
Yeah, so I was in San Diego there for 3 months, and then before that I was in Thailand for about 5 or 6 weeks. So when I was in Thailand, I got a phone call off Andy. Graham's been on to me, interested in season 2 of the MMA Fight Academy. I obviously knew what season 1 was all about, so I said straight away, yes. Then Andy sent it off and didn't hear out for a few weeks. I was like, okay. Then about 2 weeks before it, you're going to California in 2 weeks' time. And off I went. So I knew a couple of lads over there already, Teddy Stringer and stuff. So a couple of really good buddies over there. Big, huge guy, Francesco, got a lot of rounds in with him. A couple of welterweights and then a couple of D1 wrestlers. So really good level over there. Great opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a brilliant opportunity. Like, how have you enjoyed it overall? Like, I suppose even just living over in San Diego, how's it been?
Oh man, it's the life. San Diego's the spot. So Paul Redmond and Andy kept telling me, Darby, San Diego's the spot. You're going to love it. I said, we'll see. I like the boy and stuff. So anyways, I went to San Diego and I think that's my spot. Just, it's the mecca. It's surfing, jiu-jitsu, MMA, good food. You can't go wrong.
Absolutely. So you've been trying a bit of surfing over there, have you?
Well, I went out a few times, but I don't think it's for me. Well, I enjoyed it, but I'm just not good at it. My body's just not built for it. I'm too long, and
it's
I've
tough.
Got a small little board. I got whitewashed one of the times. The first day, I came off the board, hit a load of rocks, nearly got knocked out with the surfboard. Nightmare of a day.
The life of an MMA fighter who gets into a cage.
And come here, they have it all on camera as well. That's the problem. They got it all on camera.
How has that been actually? Because it's so. Maybe you might explain. So, like, what is the MMA Fight Academy for people who don't know?
So basically, they're filming the show. They're trying to show the lives of MMA fighters outside the gym, inside the gym, and the aftermath of rising to stardom sort of thing. So they basically just film us in the gym. They film every session. So if you get knocked out or anything, you're caught on camera. But then you just film the gym. That's it. And then we do a couple of activities, whatever we do during the day. Sometimes they'll text and say, "Can we come with us?" And they'll do it. So basically, we're getting paid to be on a TV show, but you're just training away. You're doing 2 sessions a day, Monday to Saturday, and the lads are filming you, and they're going to make a TV show out of it.
And like, obviously, you've done a lot of interviews and stuff over the course of the last number of years, but this is different where you've kind of, a more constant presence of TV cameras and things like that. How has that been? Has it been, did you have to adjust to that, or is it in your face constantly?
Yeah. It's a lot different when you're in the gym, Normally you're sparring hard, you talk, you say what you want to say, but you got to be careful when the camera's around, because anything you say in that gym is picked up. The lads are constantly have mics on a lot of people, so anything you say is picked up. So you've got to be really careful what you say. Not that you'd be saying anything bad, but you don't want to get picked up saying something bad, and then anything happens in training, you get submitted or anything like that, you get knocked out, you get rocked. The lads are straight over with the cameras. Oh, how does it feel to get knocked out? How does it feel? So you got to be on it.
Yeah, how did that punch taste there, pal?
Yeah, basically that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say constant cameras and Team Rhino might result in a few lawsuits, I'd say.
Oh, I tell you, there'd be more than.
But the training anyway, it seems to be, I saw you were training with the Hardwicks and a number of other fighters have been over there. getting new look, obviously you've had great training over in Rhino, but to get different looks and kind of just a different approach really for a kind of short-term period of time, how has that been?
Yeah, so it's been different. Obviously, you get used to your training partners back home. You know kind of how everyone spars. And we go hard at home, obviously, but over here it's like when I first got here, there was a couple of wars like for the first 2-3 weeks. Nobody knew each other. Everyone wants to prove something to each other, so we went in and banged for the first 2 or 3 weeks. They gave us a little speech the first day about not hitting too hard, don't try to knock each other out, but of course we were all swinging bombs at each other, trying to kill each other, but we settled in, came close, we're there for 3 months, you're living with the guys, so good team, really good guys, I really liked them.
They're a bit of an age around the place, given the fact that there's a possibility some of you can end up fighting each other somewhere down the line.
And not particularly, because I'm staying in the house with all the lightweights and the UK guys, so there's no really in my weight class in the house, so not really but if we clash down the line, that'd be a different thing. But now everyone's good vibe, good buzz.
There's one in particular I wanted to ask you about. A guy I know quite well is Anthony Orozco. I saw he got in there as well. Yeah. He's quite the character from when I've met him. What's he like to train with?
What a G. Anthony is just proper Cali dude. The most chill guy you'll ever meet. But he can rock. He's good. We got a lot of rounds in. We had a lot of wars. We done 5 rounds one day and it was an absolute war. The cameras were cut off in the cage and we just went to absolute war. 2 of us walked out bleeding. So Anthony's a really good guy and a really good wrestler.
What kind of activities are you getting up to outside of training over in San Diego? Are you getting into any trouble when the cameras are off and you're outside of the gym, or is it kind of fully focused on that fight camp itself and you're immersing yourself in that kind of environment?
No, look, being over there, I'm away from my girlfriend, I'm away from my family, my friends, so I'm fully immersed in it. I'm there to train, sort of thing. There's no clubbing or any shit like that, which all the lads were on the same buzz. No one was acting the messer or going out or anything like that, so everyone just trains. You go home, train, you probably get home about 1 p.m. You sleep or you eat, you take a few hours off, you're back in the gym 5 hours later for your next session. You can go to the beach, get a coffee, do whatever you want, but everyone was like locked in and zoned in, which is really good.
Yeah, it must be nice to be in that kind of environment as well, because you're immersing yourself with people that are heading in the same direction that you want to head. You're early in your professional career, you're trying to forge your path up the Cage Warriors ranks, and it must be a very good kind of an iron sharpening an iron environment, I guess, Adam, hey?
Yeah, it's a really good environment because, like you said, everyone's on the same buzz, everyone's cutting weight, everyone's fighting on the same shows, so there's a good atmosphere in the house, everyone's checking out each other's opponents. We spend the night time, we go home training, watching fights or watching someone's opponent, so I really like that and I'm looking forward to the next season.
Am I right in saying, Adam, I think when we were chatting before, you were saying that it's actually in the contract that you can't drink for this show. Is that right? Yeah,
that's in the contract. You can't drink and you can't smoke weed, which is fine. Like, everyone's in camp, so no one's going to be drinking and no one's going to be smoking weed. So everyone's stuck to it. I thought there might have been 1 or 2 that'd go a bit wild. There normally is out of 20 lads, but everyone stuck to it and it was really good.
And then, as far as being away from home, I remember seeing, I think Cage Wars put out a video of your ma kind of chatting about you and fighting and not liking seeing you getting hit. Is it difficult being away from family and friends? And you mentioned your girlfriend and stuff there as well.
Yes, I would be really close to my family, so I do a lot of activities. I do more stuff with my family than I would with my friends, sort of thing. We go to cinema together, what so and so. So yeah, it's difficult being away, but this is the life I chose and this is what I want to do, fighting, and you have to go abroad and train in different gyms for a couple of weeks or a couple of months at a time, so it's part of the game and I'm enjoying it.
Obviously, you're booked again now and you're going to be heading in here to fight at the weekend. When we spoke before, you kind of said that you're not in a rush. So when you're viewing this time away as from a skill development perspective, how are you approaching this for, what do you want to achieve over the next, say, couple of years? Is it you're just trying to level up for the time being and take fights as they come, or what's your plan?
Yeah, so being over here, obviously, the end goal is the UFC. That's where everyone wants to go. As I said before, from one of my first interviews that I done before my pressure debut, I'm not chasing the money, I'm chasing that fame of making the UFC. So the money's starting to come in, we're getting paid quite well over here. We're getting good money for the fight. So that's a good aspect of it. But my goal is the UFC. So I'm just building. And I think Cage Warriors are great at doing that. They build you up, different fighter, bit better than last time. I don't just throw you in the deep end. And they're not going to give you a bum either. So building myself up, and I really like that. 4, 5, 6 fights, I'd like to be fighting for the title, and then the UFC.
Adam, we spoke with Graham Boylan not so long ago, and he actually highlighted you as one of the leading prospects coming out of Ireland right now. How does it make you feel to hear that coming out of his mouth? And how do you feel that you are in the whole Irish MMA landscape in regards to prospects coming up right now?
Yeah, so that's really good to hear. Actually, I didn't even listen to that one, so that's good to hear. I missed that one, but
I thought you were a big fan of us.
Yeah, what's going on?
I missed that one. That's the recent one. I haven't listened to the most recent one. No, it's good to, I have that faith in Cage Warriors and Graham to give me the good right fights and build me up. So it's good to hear him reiterate that and say that to me. Where do I see myself in the landscape of Irish MMA? I think I'd be known enough. Like, I wouldn't be well known, but I'm known in most gyms. Like, and I think the Irish MMA at the moment is booming, and I think the UFC is probably going to come back next year, and that'll be a really interesting time because I'd like to see what gyms are on that, who's fighting on that. So that could be an interesting one.
100%.
Adam, your frame is unique, I would say, in the division. When it comes to weight classes, like, do you see yourself at welterweight long term, or do you think you'll eventually move up to middleweight, or are you kind of happy to stay at welterweight and use it to your advantage in there?
I think welterweight now for the next couple of fights at least, 6-7 fights. I'm just growing into the frame. I was fighting at lightweight not long ago, 8-9 months ago. So to move up to welterweight, I've got to put on a bit of size. I've been doing it, but it's a slow process to put on muscle naturally, and actually put the strength on with it. So it's a 2-3 year process to actually get big and strong. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. We'll see when that time comes, but for now, welterweight.
Do you see that as an advantage though? Like, just, I suppose, the awkwardness for someone going against you who, when they're training every day, it's like they're probably not taking on a body type like yours. Tall guy, long limbs, able to kind of strike from anywhere. Do you see that as an advantage to yourself?
Yeah, of course. I think I use my range quite well. I do pads with a guy called Caoilte in Dublin Combat Academy, and I do pads with Neil Theory as well, and they've really showed me how to use my range. So I find when I'm sparring people for the 4th, 2nd time, they really can't figure it out. So that's good when it comes to a fight. The guy's only got 15 minutes to figure it out. I'd probably put him away before that, 4, 5, 6 minutes in. So yeah, it's definitely an advantage.
Obviously, you're going in here against Torsten Jacob on Saturday. You had a great win in the Three Arena there earlier on this year against Jack Tucker, first round triangle choke finish. Are we expecting to see a different Adam Darby, considering you've been away, you've been leveling up? What can fans expect at the weekend?
Yes, I'd like to use me wrestling. I'd like to show me wrestling. I've got a good level of wrestling, but I never really get to show it because I like to strike. I think I'll go in and wrestle. This guy likes to wrestle, and he's a good jiu-jitsu player, so let's see what he brings on Saturday, and we'll go from there. There's no set plan. Obviously, there's a game plan for the fight, but let's see what he brings, and we'll go from there. I'm going to implement my game. I'm not going to start changing things to suit him, so let's see on Saturday what happens.
Is James Sheen going to be there cage side? That's what I want to know.
I don't know. I was just talking about that on a different podcast this morning. He's our enemy, the Energize show. I was just talking about that. So I don't know. I think they should fly him out. It'd be good to fly him out. He's fought O'Mill Brown. I think it's a good fight for James. I don't think James speaks enough about himself, and pushes himself. And I know he's coming off the loss to Owain Elliott, but he had a win there a couple of weeks ago, and a good win at that. That guy was really good. So I'd like to see James fighting for the title now, next fight.
You got to catch, obviously, the card, did you? The last card in Dublin?
Of course, yeah. The guys were on it. Jared, Solomon, James, really good fights. The Irish done really well on it.
Yeah, I'm curious now, because we obviously talk about Cage Warriors and Irish fighters and what's going to happen next. Like, when you think of Cage Warriors and Irish fighters, obviously Paul Hughes, he's still in Cage Warriors for now, but potentially gone to the UFC. Like, do you see yourself, do you see it as an opportunity for you to kind of stand out as a guy to break out in Ireland and eventually headline a show, or how do you see the Cage Warriors, landscape for Irish fighters at the moment? Yeah, so the landscape is going really well. MMA is just rising. We're getting more fans every time. I think Paul's gone. I think it's the UFC time for him. He put that guy away. That guy was good. I think the UFC have to come knocking. There's a couple of guys there, that are the next superstars, but I'm going to be on that path too with them. I think I'll be one of the next Irish stars to come through. There's probably about 5 or 6 of us that are winning, and there's a couple of guys in KF, FAI, Rhino. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens now over the next year or two. But I think I'm on that path to stardom, to be honest with you. What do you think you need to do to get there? I think I have to push my social medias a bit more. I'm really lacking in that. I don't push myself, and obviously keep winning fights. Get a couple of fights in. I'd like to get 4 or 5 fights in the next year if possible. Do you think that, just going to be blunt, this seems to be a real Team Rhino thing where just not pushing yourself? Is that, would you see it the same way? Is it it seems to be a common trend within the gym? Yeah, the problem is we all just like fighting. We all don't really like social media. Not that we don't like it, but we all don't push it because we just like going to the gym and punching the head off each other. But in this day and age, say for amateur shows, promoters are texting coaches,
how many followers has that guy got to put him on the show, before flying them out. That's the way it's gone now. So it's either getting bored or die. We have to evolve and we have to start pushing ourselves. So I've started pushing myself a little bit in San Diego, putting out a couple of posts on TikTok and videos and pictures and stuff, stories. So just got to get a bit better, and maybe the lads could follow as well, James and stuff.
Absolutely. Well, look, big fight coming up at the weekend. How many more, or well, I'm not going to say how many more do you want this year because we're basically at the end of the year, but like, how active do you want to be over the next, say, year?
I want 5 fights in the next year, say 13, 14 months, I want 5 fights. It's very doable, Reds are stuff you used to do back in the day, Siri. They used to fight every second month, so it's very doable, so I'd like to get 5 in.
And do you have a prediction for the fight against Thorsten Jacobs come Saturday night?
I don't like to do predictions, you got to see how it's going, but I would say I'm going to put him away, probably second round, late first round, early second round.
Well, look, Adam, I really appreciate the time today. I don't think, unless the lads have any more, do you have any more questions for them lads here now?
We're good. I'm good.
We have them under the thumb here.
I've got to give a little Cali do it for all the lads out in Cali.
Well, is there anything that you miss from being out there in San Diego? Obviously, I'm an Irishman living in Canada, so you would miss a few things when you're back home. I know I missed rashers and sausages a lot over here. You can't get good meat. Can't get good meat over in North America. Was there anything that you missed in particular when you're over there, or vice versa, since you came back from San Diego? Obviously, the good weather is going to be something that you miss as well, Adam.
Yeah, so I'm freezing here. I've got gloves and hats and big jackets and all on over here, and I'm inside. Yeah, it's a big difference, from being in hot weather for 3 months to coming home and you're fucking freezing. But you get used to it after a couple of days. But chocolate and sweets, that's what I'm missing. I thought America was going to be the land of candy and everything like that, but it's really not. Ireland is the best.
It's terrible for chocolate.
Yeah. Hershey's shit and fucking.
Loud about.
It tastes like puke.
Yeah.
That's right.
Like it actually tastes like puke.
I'm a big jelly man and I'm a big sweet man, so next week after the fight I'll be definitely going and getting a load of jellies and eating them.
Do you know what they do have though actually we're just talking food now for the rest.
We're cruel talking about food 1 week before this man has to eat.
Buffalo chicken on a pizza. That's what they have in America that I wish they had it here more.
I don't hate it.
That's my mistake for next time. That's the mistake I made. I was out there for 10 weeks. I could have had the first 2 weeks to, eat around, and I didn't. I stayed eating healthy for the 10 weeks. I could have had 2 weeks of splurging and trying out in and out and all other places, but I fucked up there. Next time I go out, I'll take a week to just enjoy myself in the field. Then I'll jump.
That's what you also call being professional as well, Adam.
Are you heading back out there, or are you back in Dublin there, or what's the crack after this fight?
No, so I'm in London now for the week for fight week. Then I'm back in Dublin for about 5 or 6 weeks, and then I'm off again. I'm jetting off again to San Diego early January.
And then how long will that be for in San Diego?
That'll be another 8 to 10 weeks, and then fight again.
Brilliant. Well, look, Adam, you can after this fight anyway, you can get in contact with Love in Dublin ambassador James Sheehan. He'll give you a few food recommendations for after the fight. But again, we'll actually wrap up this time. Appreciate the time. The guards, by the sounds of things, are there for you in London. But we appreciate the time, Adam, and all the best. Fans can watch Cage Wars 163 on UFC Fight Pass. Adam, the Plank Derby of Team Rhino, taking on Thorsten Jacobs. So we'll be tuning in live and catch you later. Much appreciated for the time, Adam.
Thanks for having me.
Couple of other housekeeping items, guys, before we wrap it up for this week's episode. Obviously, we spoke to Sinead and to Adam, who are competing this Saturday at Cage Warriors London. Andy, I need to go to you, my friend. Any update on the status of whether Jimbo Slice is going to be live in attendance?
Oh, I haven't heard. I don't know.
Are we going to have to break out the checkbook and book him a flight ourselves?
Oh, we might have to. God, I hope they do it.
It makes sense. It makes sense to do it, hopefully. But we'll see. Obviously, that's, if you're not really Irish related, but O'Neill Brown competing and has a good chance of winning that welterweight title, I think, I'll definitely be watching that main event.
I would assume James will probably be over there anyway. With Adam Darby competing, I think Redzer's probably on the call.
Yeah,
you never know. He might be over there. Stick him in the cage. Cage Wars.
That's it. Moving on I'll send over to you, Caoilte. Chaos FC have a card coming up this coming weekend as well. couple of good fights on that. Obviously, the pro debut of Jack Corr, who takes on Aaron Brogan. We have Brian Manning on the card, taking on Sean Kelly. A couple of other ones, Jess Paulo on the card as well, Owen Mass Oliver. A decent enough card overall, Caoilte. Anything else that's standing out to you?
Mainly just the main event, to be honest. Yeah, I missed that this one was even announced between Jack Corr and Aaron Brogan. So, yeah, we came out of left field almost, but fantastic to see more lads going pro. It should be a good fight tonight. It's nice for two lads to be able to headline, but besides that, you know what, has to be Jess Paulo. He's on every Irish card, so I just get excited to see him at this point and see what's different. He must be closing in on the pro ranks, but that's probably the other one that I'm looking forward to the most. I think Brian Manning's supposed to be on the card. No sign of an opponent yet, is there? But hopefully we get to see him compete.
He's got an opponent. I think Jess doesn't have an opponent just yet. Brian Manning's taking on Sean Kelly from Team Renegade.
Mixing it up there. So swap my thoughts, and that's exactly what I meant.
100%. Yeah, decent enough card there. I'm not sure, did we get any? I think this card is available also on pay-per-view as well. If you wanted to tune in and get it, I found a link for it over on the Chaos FC Instagram page. They have it up in their bios there, where you can get a direct access to watch that show, which goes on this weekend coming. It is on, what's the exact
Sunday the 19th of November. So not this weekend, but the following weekend.
Following weekend after that, the 19th. This weekend, though, we do have Dom Norcus, Team KF's Dom Norcus, who goes over to Germany to take on Kevin Enns on November 11th in Rostock in Germany. That is a very interesting fight for him. They're promoting Kevin Enns, Andy, as the youngest black belt ever in German history in combat sports. So
just ever.
Yeah, he was coming out of the womb in his black belt, they say. But yeah, he takes on Dom Norcus. Obviously, very excited to see Dom Norcus. He's a guy we've talked about a lot over here on the Auld Triangle, Andy, and he's back in action over in Germany again this coming weekend.
Yeah, I kind of don't want to say that I'm excited to see Dom Norcus, purely because every time I do, his fights seem to fall out, whether it's his opponent pullouts, or I think the last one was the entire event was scrapped due to like a storm. So I'm just going to say nothing, and hopefully I'll get to see him compete.
Andy is like the old school volcanic ash cloud that comes in over and ruins everything. Remember that back in the day, boys? When it came in and ruined loads of fights and other events as well. Nikolai Groziev takes on Stefan Magaleas at Centurion FC 16 on Wednesday, the 15th of November. So we're still getting a couple of guys going over there. Obviously, SPG's Nikolai Groziev going over there to compete on Centurion FC Wednesday, the 15th of November. Sure, there will be a stream that is available for that. I think they had the last one on their own kind of private stream, Andy, if I remember, but it was hard. It was hard enough to look at it, if I remember correctly.
They have
one on Twitch or something.
Yeah, it was on Twitch or some shit like that, but it was like I remember going back to look at it. I think it was Stephen Costello was fighting on it, and I couldn't see the fight or nothing.
You click in, and then like there's about 25 different pop-ups, and it's one of those. You just feel like you're on a dodgy website half the time.
That's right. Dodginess galore.
But yeah, Groziev coming off that one night tournament last time, so he had lost in the final, I think. But he's 3-1 under Centurion, so he's carved a nice little run there so far, and he's back in action.
Yep, absolutely. And that's it. Everybody else will be back in action, and we'll be back in action the next time on episode 45 to discuss all of those fights and more. It's a pleasure, as always, to join the lads to discuss all the latest news in Irish mixed martial arts. Plenty to discuss, as always. Thank you to Sinead. Thank you to Adam Darby. Andy is kind of going to jump in as if I've forgotten to mention something here, so I'm going to let you come back in again.
I was making faces, and then I was like, no, say nothing, Andy. But we did forget one, and then to be fair, we don't really have the full result, but Nara Bartoska is a fighter who's been training and fighting out in Thailand, and I believe he was actually fighting in Bali this time. Now, he won, I trying to get footage, trying to get an official result, very, very difficult. But I know that he won. I believe I saw the Energized lads had that he won by rear naked choke. That's the only reference to that I've seen. And I saw on his own post, he said that he was third round. So I'm putting 2 and 2 together and hopefully getting 4. But, you know, he's a guy who I remember from that kind of viral video of was it a legal kick, was it not? I think as an amateur at his legacy. But he's training out under John Boy out in Thailand. So hopefully get to see him fight a bit more. Maybe we get to see him fight back in Ireland at some point, but another win for him, who I think is now 2-0 as a pro.
Yeah, you'll remember him from that crazy kick KO from Cage Legacy a little while back. It was the one that went viral. So yeah, great to see him out doing his thing in Bali. And that wraps us up for episode 44. Like I said at the start, guys, head over, give us an old rating or a 5-star review on Spotify, on SoundCloud. Share with a friend. We appreciate the support. We want to help grow the podcast, and we appreciate everyone who tunes in each and every week to listen to us break down everything in Irish mixed martial arts. But for episode 44, that is a wrap. Caoilte, see us out, my friend.
Míle maith agaibh agus slán go fóill.